Tell me when. We are back on the record after a short recess, after 3 hours of being here.
And we have, sorry, introduce yourselves again.
Battalion Chief Henry DeGiulio.
Julia.
Deputy Chief Menendez, Acting Chief of the Department.
And they are here for 10Z21. This is a contract to Vesta Housing Solutions, LLC, for the purchase, delivery, and installation of a fleet modular building through the Houston-Galveston Area Council Cooperative Purchasing Program for the Department of Public Safety, Division of Fire. Gentlemen, you'd like to take the floor? Just share what's...
At this time, what we're looking for is a 3-section temporary housing project. It's going to be a 3-section trailer that temporarily housed the firefighters from Engine 15, Ladder 9 on SIP Avenue. At this time, we've been out without fire protection in that area for a couple of months. They're renovating that firehouse. I've been working on since October of 17 to try to find them a temporary place to put a temporary firehouse, and that's what this will be. The city had came up with the property at the intersection of the State Highway and SIP Avenue, the old gas station and Gary's Propane, to where we can put a temporary firehouse, and this is where we'd like to put it. So this temporary building would go there to house those fire trucks and that personnel while that house is going under a 1-year plus renovation. It wasn't.
I spoke to the chief and everybody, and
they found problems in where the money was coming from, Councilman, so they came back to us and had to start over from square one. No.
So, Council President? Yeah, can I? So, the modular building able to provide the bathroom and the shower rooms for the firefighters?
We have 3 sections. 2 sections will have a bunk room, bathroom, shower, and a captain's office. The 3rd section, as it's put together, will have a common area with a kitchen and utility area.
And also, another one, we have to put in the heating and the air conditioning systems together.
No, that all comes with it. Heating and air conditioning is all combined into the building. Once the buildings are all set, DPW will make the connections for the utilities for us.
And another question is this, the city engineer, John, after finish to use this room, we can use other different purpose of the other project, right?
Absolutely.
Move around.
They quoted us a lease price that was $20,000 less than buying it.
Higher.
So we decided it made total sense to buy a brand new one, keep it, and use it for all of the firehouse work that we have going on in various other.
At least 3 times.
How much is the total square feet?
How much is what? I'm sorry, Councilman.
Total square feet of the building.
I'm not totally sure.
I think we're in the area about 134, what the resolution was written for.
No, the square footage.
Oh, the square footage of the building?
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, there's 60 by 20,
Is
no.
it one level?
1 level, 1 story, 60 by, so it's roughly 60 by 60, 1,200 square feet.
60 by 20, right? So 1,200 square feet.
60 by 60.
3,600.
3,600, is that right?
because I'm very involved over there, but people are really ticked off. This firehouse should be done, work finished in a couple of months instead of taking maybe a year to do. It's an actual...
They gutted the whole building down to
I
the
know.
original brick. But that's been slated to be renovated now for the last 10 years.
So, question, this isn't usually something that we normally do when we're renovating firehouses, right? Like I don't remember doing
No.
firehouses before. So why are we doing it for the SIP Ave house? Is it like
Because-
it's inadequate fire?
Well, because right now we're down on fire protection in 2 areas of the city. We condemned the Holiday Street Firehouse, and we don't have any protection down there, so those companies are off duty. And now with the companies off duty in the Journal Square area, the closest companies we have are Summit Avenue and Boyd Avenue for that whole section of the city.
If this is passed, how long will it take to get this structure in New Jersey City and get the crews in there and be up and running and operational?
They tell me once they get the PO, they can have these buildings. They're sitting down in Hamilton, New Jersey, fitted for us with inside of a 3-week period or so to have them delivered up here 3 to 4 weeks and set on the site.
So the apparatus is going to be outside?
No, that's a separate PO. Okay, just so you know, it's going to be, the modular buildings will be 12 by 60, so it'll be 36 by 60 overall. All right, so it'll be 3 12-foot trailers.
What is the model size?
Model building size?
There'll be 36 by 60 complete overall. That'll be the total square footage. We have a separate rec going in for a fabric structure, roughly, I think, 30 by 50, 30 by 60, that's going to be put up as a temporary garage with roll-up doors, like some of the fabric structures we have now. And that'll go next to this building to put, to house the 2 apparatus. And we'd buy that also, so we can use that also in other places.
Any other questions? No. Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Glad to answer your questions.
So before you come up, Chris, you want to talk about Z23? This is Z23, it's a contract to Adaptive Digital Systems for the purchase and delivery of audio-video recorder cameras
Yes, sir, thank you.
for the police division.
This is basically just actually for the people that we have that are on loan for the FBI actually are going to be using it for counter surveillance and things of that nature.
Z23, everyone. This is counter surveillance equipment.
It's for the purchase of equipment for the FBI that we have, and our officers there for counter surveillance and things of that nature. If you need more details, I can go and get more if you'd like.
This is used by the FBI?
It's used by our people we have at the FBI. So Jersey City PD on loan at the FBI. Yeah. Yes, sir. I can find out the answer to that right away. Yeah, I'll call over. I'm sure we've lent more people as time's gone on, so I'm not sure if we just need to replace it because of technology creates itself, or if it's more of we have more people there now and we need equipment for them. I'll get you the answer though.
You want to say anything? What do you want?
We're on the surveillance.
The camera?
Yep.
That is, that camera is being reimbursed by the FBI, the forfeiture grant program that we have. That is going to be used for our joint terrorist surveillance task force that we belong to with the FBI. So what's happening is once that's purchased, Lieutenant Cahill will be sending that in to the FBI, and the city will be fully reimbursed for the cost of the camera.
Did you have any other items?
I know I have the Fire CAD.
Which one?
Astra.
22 is the computer-aided dispatch system.
Right, for the fire department.
Yeah.
That's
This is
an
to Astra
annual-
Software.
Yeah, that's an annual contract that's due in June. We had a little difficulties getting the vendor to give us the paperwork and stuff on time. And then there's always, the back and forth with the, get the resolution wording and stuff correct. So that went in a little bit late, but that's just a standard bid. As you can see, through the other years, that's about $2,000 less than what we've been paying years before.
Any questions for Amanda?
Barricades.
Z24, purchasing more barricades through Global Equipment Company.
Many of you who are out with us with the Office of Emergency Management and the different disasters and crises that happen around the city. As you know, DPW is the biggest holders of barricades, but they're not always available 24/7. We are. Greg Kearse, myself, Timmy Lawrence, and a few others, we're always on call. And if something happens disastrously, we go to OEM, load up barricades onto a truck, and bring them to whoever we need. And they have a tendency to disappear. So if you're not back exactly the next day to pick them up, somebody claims them. So we're trying to refill what we originally had. It's just like cones. I mean, we're not the only one. You put down cones, you put out barricades, you put out anything else. There's so much construction sites. We sometimes send the guys around the city with the truck going to the different construction sites looking for our orange barricades and, reclaim them.
Okay, any questions? Hearing none, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. To traffic and engineering,
Hold on.
Folks.
Sorry, I'm just reading these emails here. Were these intended for the 4th of July? The emails seem to indicate that they were. The barricades, were they intended for the 4th of July? So we purchased them already and used them for the 4th? Okay, so now we're coming back after the 4th? Because these emails are dated from June 11th, so we had two council meetings before that.
Okay. Who was the email from?
I'm just looking.
Okay.
William O'Donnell, Walter Pierce, Patricia Vega, Juan Moody.
I won't know the answer to that till I actually talk with Greg. All I know is I got a call to get down here in emergency caucus.
Okay, so I mean, I guess we purchased these already, so.
So the question being, where it is, more to the BA, and again,
I know the procedure, President.
Procedurally.
I didn't see any of that paperwork prior to Chris and I touched down. But I will go back and inquire about that. And I'll email you back on the
Okay.
Definitely.
Sure. That would be great to know. Did we purchase this contract as these things are?
okay. So let me start by apologizing to the three of you. Thank you for your patience. We were just talking about this. In hindsight, we will endeavor to make sure your time is used more productively so that you're not sitting around for 4 hours waiting for the meeting.
Totally understand.
It's on city time, not his private time, this time.
But we want to make sure your city time is used productively, I guess, right? So that's,
So we can put another 12, so we can do another 12 resolute ordinances for the next meeting.
I'll get to those after the Grant Street presentation, but first I'm going to jump right into Grant Street. Again, thank you for the opportunity to present this.
Just identify yourself, Andrew.
Of course, Andrew Vischio, City Traffic Engineer. Thank you for the opportunity to present this exciting project. I think that you could easily make the argument that it's one of the most ambitious traffic safety and cycling infrastructure projects in the state, easily at the municipal level. So I know we've been here for a while, and I'm just there's a lot of information here. I'm gonna run through it as quickly as possible on a very high level. If any of the council people have any more detailed questions, feel free to ask me them now, or we can set up a meeting one-on-one or in a group setting, whatever you think is more efficient. So I'm just going to basically run through how we got here, the structure of the study, and basically where we go from here. How we got here is a relatively simple question to answer. Resolution 16853 required that the city engineering, traffic, and planning departments study the possibility of improving Grant Street, traffic safety along Grant Street, through the use of a number of different advanced traffic calming measures, and to also investigate the feasibility of including some advanced bicycle infrastructure along Grant Street. So the way we went about doing that, we structured this study by developing a few different cross-sections for Grant Street, and then we used traditional traffic assessment techniques to study the pros and cons of each of the alternatives. This study was unique in the depth and the breadth of our analysis, as well as a very robust community outreach effort. So these, what I have before you are images of the concept drawings for each of the alternatives. The drawings are very detailed and very informative, but they're extremely difficult to read. So I'm just going to skip through these and go to a summary table where I can just tell you about what the different alternatives were. All right, I'm going to start from here. So before I jump into what each of the alternatives are, I just want to point out or highlight two key takeaways. Every single alternative that we propose would have significant improvements to traffic safety and a significant reduction in both pedestrian crashes and motor vehicle crashes. And the second key takeaway is that an improved Grand Street, a safer Grand Street with bicycle facilities is possible, but not without some compromises. So I'll talk about each of those. Alternative one is an alternative where we have continuous directional bike lanes along the entire length of the corridor, start to finish from Bramhall Avenue all the way to the waterfront, which is just over 2 miles. The way we were able to place those bike lanes was by putting Grant Street on a road diet. That means that we would eliminate travel lanes and reduce Grant Street for the entire length, essentially to have one travel lane in each direction with a center turning lane. So the benefit there is obviously reduction in crashes, high quality bicycle infrastructure that is protected in many different areas depending on the cross section of Grant Street. Downsides here are the loss of a good amount of parking, particularly on the eastern extent and the western extent of Grant Street, and very significant reductions in travel time in both directions of Grant Street during the peak periods. Our second alternative was a cycle track alternative. That's when both directions of cyclists are traveling on the same side of the street. In alternative two, that would extend for the entire length of Grant Street. The benefit there is obviously this is the only option that would provide for a protected bike facility along the entire length of Grant Street. Now that comes at the expense of a significant loss in parking throughout essentially the entire corridor, as well as significant travel time and vehicle delays in the peak hours. In this case, it's worse in the westbound direction than the eastbound direction. So the traffic impacts for alternative two are not as severe as alternative one, but the parking impacts are more severe. Moving on to alternative three. Alternative three is essentially a modification of alternative one, where we still maintain directional bike lanes in each for a large portion of Grant Street through the use of a road diet. However, it doesn't run the entire length of Grant Street. So the traffic impacts are the same as alternative one, but we don't lose as much parking. In fact, we gain some parking in alternative three. And now alternative four is another sort of modified alternative, most similar to alternative two in that it has a cycle track for a large portion of Grant Street. Again, the compromise here is in the bicycle facilities. They don't extend the entire length of the corridor. Another compromise here is alternative four is the most expensive option. And I can talk a little bit about, we've already been kind of brainstorming ways to mitigate that added cost and have essentially created an alternative 4B. The parking impacts for alternative 4 are minimal, if any, and the traffic impacts are very minimal. The only travel time and delay increase you would see during the peak hours would be in the westbound direction in the morning peak hour. At all other times, during the worst case scenario, peak periods, travel times and delay would remain equal or actually be improved in alternative 4. So where do we go from here? We intend to finalize the report in the near future, and in that report we're going to recommend one alternative. As I said at the top, we don't plan on doing so without providing the council an opportunity to ask us any more detailed questions or make sure that we address any of the council's concerns before we finalize the report. On a sort of parallel track, we've already been pursuing grant opportunities to supplement the capital funds that have already been allocated to this project. From there, we would put out an RFP for design, which that process would take approximately 6 to 8 months. And then from there, we would break ground on construction. That timeline is still to be determined as we go through the final design process. So again, that's a very high-level overview. Happy to answer any questions here or later at a different venue.
How many pedestrians have been hit?
Sure. So I can talk a little bit about the safety impacts. There have been 4 fatalities on Grand Street in the past 10 years.
10 years?
10 years, yes. In the past 3 years, there have been 500 crashes, a significant portion of them pedestrian crashes. And in terms of where Grand Street ranks on our most unsafe corridors, it is third, behind only Bergen Avenue, Montgomery Street. Behind only Bergen Avenue and Montgomery Street. Grand is the third least safe corridor, major arterial, and fourth is Christopher Columbus Drive.
Do you ever think that one of the reasons for increasing crashes and traffic fatalities is the city did away with the motorcycle squad, they did away with the traffic division? We have no traffic police in this city, so you can do what you want in this city. And that's the reason, if any, for increase in accidents and things. And it's a disgrace they did away with the motorcycle squad.
I agree that
And this administration should smarten up and put it back.
I agree that enforcement is a very important aspect of traffic safety. However, we can't ignore geometric changes to the roads that have proven time and time again to reduce fatal and severe crashes.
I don't see how they can use major crashes. You can't even move in these streets. You move where?
Let me, Andrew, you go with your presentation?
Yes.
Each item that's coming up, if it pleases the council, we'll let them present and then go around, and every person will have an opportunity to ask questions if you have a question. So I just want to go around the horn, and I'll start here with Councilman Solomon. Is it Ward E? Ward F?
E&F.
E&F? Jermaine? Would you guys like to ask a particular question?
Sure. I mean, I've talked to Andrew about this, so
You're up to date.
I'm pretty brief, but I guess just a quick question would be, I guess what's your, the steps going forward? How do you envision the next steps?
Yeah, so we intend to finalize the report within a matter of weeks, but we want to provide any of the council people the opportunity to meet with us again or before we finalize the report, just to make sure.
How does it come back to the council for funding, or how does it work?
Well, there's a few different options we could do. We could sort of do a sort of maybe an informal resolution of support for one of the alternatives. Otherwise, the next time we would be before the council would be to award the design contract, which would naturally be above the threshold where the council would need to be involved.
So there would be a design contract before the
Yes, correct. These drawings were purely conceptual. We need to actually design the project, and that'll take several months.
Okay. Councilman Robinson? Councilman Riley?
The only question I have is, I guess between alternative 3 and 4, the gain of 103 parking spaces, you said that's because of what?
So in alternative 3, we used, alternative 3 had the most impact to travel time and delay because it has the fewest travel lanes for the entire length of the corridor. So we were able to gain some parkings in the middle sections of the corridor where you don't see any parking today, like near the Turnpike extension, by the beloved charter school. So we were able to gain parking there, but not as much. We weren't able to gain as much parking in alternative 4 as compared to alternative 3.
And only alternative 4 actually minimize the travel time.
Yeah, so when I talk about travel time, I mean, when any traffic engineer performs a study, we look traditionally at the very worst case scenario. So we looked at the peak periods in both the morning and the afternoon rush hours, and we conducted a very extensive traffic assessment and found that only alternative 4 would be able to maintain what people are currently experiencing traveling through the corridor.
So I know we've been to, different places doing some community events.
Right.
And we were able to put the stickers on, I guess, the one we felt was best.
Right.
Which one did the community pick the most?
Right. So at the last community meeting, we had. Yes, exactly. 3 school. We had excellent turnout. We had 87 people vote. We also had 13 people email us after the fact with their votes. And essentially, alternatives 1, 2, and 4 are in a complete dead heat. They're essentially tied from the community's perspective, and alternative 3 was the least favorite of the alternatives from the community's perspective. So there was no consensus from the community on any of these alternatives, which is frankly not surprising.
So what about the one from Van Voorst Park and the one from Dr. Lena Edwards? I know it was all.
So those community events happened before we had developed each of the alternatives, and we used those to gauge what we felt that the people who use Grant Street, the people who live near Grant Street would like to see on Grant Street. And in a lot of ways, it kind of reinforced what we thought was what those answers would be. The community is very interested in traffic safety measures, but they're also extremely concerned with the loss of parking and extremely concerned with vehicular delay. So no real groundbreaking feedback from the community, but it was still important to make that effort so that we knew which of the alternatives to go forward with and study.
I think you went through. Did we change anything as far as the curbs, the bike lanes? Because I know I've seen the pictures.
So in this, for each of these alternatives, we would not be touching the curb lines with the exception of a small portion of Grant Street in alternative 4, which is why I indicated that one has a slightly higher cost to it. We were actually just kind of brainstorming and workshopping in the office last week and came up with an alternative 4B. The alternative 4 that I presented, the cycle track ends at Arlington Park, but we could eliminate all of the additional costs associated with alternative 4 if we ended it at Berry Lane Park instead, which actually has the unique benefit of connecting to the cycle track that's already in Berry Lane Park. So that alternative 4B might be more ideal than the alternative 4 that we just presented. Yeah, of course.
Andrew, if I might add, the B concept diverts the pedestrian, I should say the bike traffic, away from the junction, which could be problematic as well. A lot of it started with the geometry not affording enough space, so then we looked into other ways to pull it off sooner, and it looked like it made a lot more sense to send it down to Berry Lane. We have an established portion of a bikeway there already.
Councilman Rivera?
I'm going to try to get to, I think it's just warming up a little bit. Okay. So in alternative 4, so we have the cycle track. I really apologize for how zoomed out this is, but the cycle track would end at Arlington Park in alternative 4, but I'm sorry?
No, I'm just.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Sure. So the cycle track would end here, but the portion of Grant Street where we would need to modify the curbs is near the junction. So we could actually, just for everyone's orientation, I should have done this at first. This is Grant Street. This is Grant Street, east to west. North is to the top of the page. This is Communipaia. This is the furthest west, and then this is getting closer, traveling east. So where this ends here, it picks up right over here. The hospital's off the page to the right. That's the next. The hospital is the next page.
Put it on the hospital page.
Sure, we'll get there. So 4B.
The hospital's against this.
So where was I? The curbs would need to be modified here near the junction, but we could avoid all of those costs by having the cycle track instead continue down Summit. Is that Summit or Ivy there?
That's Garfield.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Garfield, but that's a one-way. You can't go that way.
But we can have the cycle track be contraflow to vehicle traffic as long as it's separated entirely, which it would be. So the cycle
That's the
track.
little side street next to the gas
Exactly.
station,
So
right?
there's the gas station right here. There's that Sigonia paint store here. So the cycle track would continue down here instead of going to Arlington Park, down there, and then make a round the corner down Camino Paw, and then off the page to the side where it connects to Berry Lane Park.
And don't we already have the bike lanes on Garfield? From past Camino Corps, south of Camino Corps?
Right, but this would connect Grand Street to that existing infrastructure. But that would come at the expense of not having this cycle track go to Arlington Park.
And we still get to keep both sides of the street parking at Arlington Park?
Yes, with both alternative 4 and alternative 4B, parking wouldn't be touched on both sides near Arlington Park.
And so which one would take the parking from Bramhall to Arlington?
Alternatives 1 and 2.
1 and 2 take...
1 and 2 would take away significant parking near Arlington Park as well as on the easterly extent of the project as well.
You mean all the way down towards the waterfront?
Correct.
Because 1 and 2, what is the bike lane extended all the way up? That's why it's...
Exactly. So right now, this portion of Grand Street is relatively narrow. So in order to allocate the space for bicycles, it has to come at the expense of something, and in alternative 1 and 2, it comes at the expense of parked vehicles.
Councilperson Woodley, Najarian, Mojana. Danny, Justin?
Yeah, he...
I'm sorry, I have quite a few questions.
Of course.
He wants to see the...
Let's go back to the medical center.
Sure. The medical center is right here.
Okay.
Grand Street is again running east-west.
Exactly.
And Jersey Avenue is right here.
So this is, like I said, I told you guys before, this is my concern a little, right? So medical center's here.
Right.
Right? So I think we're cutting down response time for fire and ambulances drastically, especially going into the areas that are concerned here. For example, first responders coming from Engine 2, crossing into Booker T projects, which they're always there, Lafayette projects, which they're always there, PS number 3, PS number 4, the charter school. I mean, we're cutting down, God forbid if something happens in that situation, where we are, make no mistake about it, we will be cutting response times to these patients. So that's a little concern that I have.
So you're saying that we're moving from 2 to 1 lane?
Yeah, you know, the fact
But that
that...
center lane would be an emergency lane, right?
So in this specific section of Grand Street, that in between Jersey Avenue and Monmouth Street, there would be that striped median where emergency response vehicles would be able to drive past the traffic and just continue further west. Also, in alternative 4, we have 2 eastbound travel lanes all the way from the junction to Jersey Avenue.
Oh, I just realized the signal that you have there, so that's still in place there, right? That signal?
So, yes, I skipped through that in the interest of time, but all of the alternatives propose a new traffic signal at the shopping center with Dunkin' Donuts and McDonald's, as well as a mid-block traffic signal between Monmouth and Jersey. And interestingly, we were able to use that mid-block signal in alternative 4 to transition from a cycle track to directional bike lanes where the bike lanes are on the opposite sides of the street.
I mean, I like the concept. You know, my biggest concern is that, you know, we're cutting down to response time.
It was a very real concern of ours. So that's why we made sure to quantify the actual travel time and delay for each of the alternatives. And I would agree with you about the delayed travel time and response times in the peak hours for alternatives 1 through 3. Alternative 4, the numbers just don't bear that out.
And when you said that you spoke with the community, did you speak with the Bergen Lafayette community, with the Lafayette people, with the Booker T people, as opposed to, you know, people?
We absolutely did. We visited the first community outreach event we did. We went to farmers markets, both at Van Voorst Park and Arlington Park. The first community event we had was at the Dr. Lena Edwards Charter School at the corner of Ocean, Grant and Graham Hall. The second community meeting we had was at PS3, and our last community meeting that we had was at PS3.
How about Beloved? Did you guys speak to Beloved Charter School?
We did. We had a meeting with Beloved Charter School, and the issue there we thought was going to be where they would store their school buses and do their pickup drop-off operations. So we've allocated some space to that, but they also have plans to do their pickup drop-off bus operations behind the school rather than on Grand Street. So it sort of, in a way, took care of itself.
Were they okay with that?
Yes.
Oh, they were.
They relocated their pickup drop-off to the back. They tried it for a week in March, it worked well, that's what they've been doing. You'll notice you don't see the big line of buses queued up often anymore at all. And that was to try to, pave the way for this. But Andrew, I also want you to just confirm, we're going to show an actual synchro model of the traveling vehicles when we present the final recommendation, correct? Or
So the modeling was part of this effort. It's how we conducted the traffic study. Whether or not we showed the video, obviously we could send the video to anyone who would like to see it, but it would just depend on whether or not we address the council's concerns individually, in group setting, over email.
Well, for Councilman Rivera, we have an upcoming meeting with the Medical Center and yourself. We're going to get deep into this. And
I'm okay with the concept, just the fact that, where this road is leading to is the only trauma center in the city of Jersey City. So we can't afford for anything to be slow, or any process or any response time to be slowed down to the only hospital within the area.
that's why I think the synchronization will help. And also the fact that we're going to program these with some ComStat, some override for public emergency vehicles, to override the signalization to provide clearance in the direction that they're traveling.
Andrew, you got a comment?
I know I missed something. I know Grant and Arlington, that's going to be the finish point or the beginning point. You're not going on down Arlington, right? Because I heard you said losing some parking spaces, and I know that's a problem along.
So Grand, between Community Hall and Graham Hall, in some of the alternatives, we were losing parking.
Right.
In alternatives 1 and 2, we were losing parking there. In alternatives 3 and 4, we were not losing parking there.
Okay, so I'm make sure, because I
Sure.
have a lot of complaints, they can't park. I'm having that problem.
Okay. So, we're going to move on to other questions, I'm sure there are. We've put about 25 minutes into this one, I think. And we're going to try to do the next 3. If we can do 10-minute presentations, again, we'll do the questions, try to restrict it to about 5 to 7 minutes. on the questions, and of course, if people have continued questions, you can ask offline. 28 minutes?
I think he wants the presentation. You want the presentations first or the ordinances now?
The presentations. Let's finish the presentations. What's the next one? Which one is it?
We'll do Vision Zero next.
Okay, we're going to be talking about Vision Zero. So just update.
Not a problem. Just making sure I'm not missing something.
Do you need me to introduce myself? Yes. Okay, I will provide the council an update to Vision Zero. As you all know, the city committed to Vision Zero in February of this year via executive order. And by doing so, we're following in the footsteps of Sweden as a nation, which adopted Vision Zero in 1990 and is now one of the safest places in the world to move about because of the policies they've set in place. Over the course of a few years, they've halved the number of traffic deaths that were occurring in the country, and they basically did that by setting forward policies that say that traffic deaths are not an acceptable outcome of the transportation network. We in Jersey City are following the footsteps of Sweden and other cities across the nation, like New York City, Boston, Seattle, Denver, by setting forward similar goals. And so our Vision Zero goal is to eliminate all traffic deaths and severe injuries on city roadways by the year 2026. As you may also know, there's a task force set up to guide the process in doing this, which includes various city agencies, representation from this council, the business administrator, and local advocacy groups. So far, the Vision Zero task force has met twice. You have in front of you the progress report from the first quarter, which outlines everything that we've talked about, including discussion of the crash context as we know it today. On average, there are 300 traffic-related crashes in the city involving pedestrians. On average, there are 9 fatalities on our roadways, and that includes city, county, and state roadways. On average, there are about 3 fatalities on just city roadways, which is an important distinction because the executive order sets forward the goal of 0 for just city roadways, which is all that we can control. There is a status update in this progress report of all of the ongoing projects that we have related to Vision Zero, and that includes citywide studies such as the pedestrian enhancement plan, the bicycle master plan, school travel plan, and parking management plan. In addition, we have several corridor studies ongoing. You just heard about Grand Street. There's also Montgomery Street, Columbus Drive, Bergen Avenue, and a few others throughout the city. In addition to that, we are implementing solutions and strategies that have been tested and proven in the industry. This includes things like making quick changes to our signals with leading pedestrian interval, which is when you build in extra seconds into the signal to allow for pedestrians crossing before the light turns green for cars. We've done that on several intersections throughout the city. We are also advancing low-cost, high-impact solutions. These include things like curb extensions, which we tested through the pedestrian study, added additional locations to our list, and then started implementing this spring. And we're doing that just with striping and paint and delineators, and the impact for that is really high in terms of ensuring pedestrian safety. Through this study, we're also trying to create a rapid crash response, which would involve a multi-agency effort, so anytime there is an incident on our streets, the various agencies involved know exactly what they need to do immediately in order to remedy the situation or prevent other incidents from happening on that location. What else? Okay, so we have a consultant on board to help us create an action plan, and this action plan is going to specify exact actions we need to take as a city to get to the goal of zero by 2026. So the consultant we have on board is Tool Design, which was approved by this council. They're required to finish the action plan with the guidance of the task force by February 2019, and that will come before this council as well for your approval. And in the meantime, we'll continue to send you progress reports for every quarter that we complete. And in the meantime, we'll continue making all of the interim and temporary improvements that we've been making on the roadways. So the community somewhat knows about Vision Zero just through the press releases and various other things, but we have a robust community outreach plan. So on National Night Out, which is August 7th, the consultant team will be at 3 locations throughout the city to get the word out about what Vision Zero is and how people can give us feedback. By that time, a website will be up, and on the website, people will be able to take a survey to tell us about themselves and what their traffic concerns are. And there's also a map set up so people can give us location-specific feedback by dropping a point on a map and saying speeding's an issue here, or there's a visibility issue and I can't cross safely, or there's not enough lighting, whatever the case may be. So there will be that first round of outreach on National Night Out and also at the All About Downtown Fair to get to as many people as we can. Then the second round of outreach will be later this year in the fall, when it will be more of a workshop type of outreach where people will come to us and work with us to figure out what kinds of strategies we can implement or what kinds of actions we can take. And then there will be a final public meeting just before the action plan is completed, just to present the plan to everyone and say, here's what we heard, here's what we did we get it right? And so the plan will end, or the plan will be presented in February 2019. Oh, I'm sorry. Here you go. Yeah. Yes, that's the presentation.
Can I see that the project update is...
Just so to be fair to everyone. One question to each person this time around, and then we'll go around that way, okay? Councilman Young.
Okay, I see that the Bogan Avenue road safety audit, Christopher Columbus, Grand Street, Community Avenue, but except the Summit Avenue is missing. When I get some data from the traffic engineer department,
sure.
Summit Avenue is the highest, probably most car accidents happen in Jersey City, so Summit Avenue, but they don't have that.
Yeah, so we do have grants secured for Summit Avenue. That's not on there yet because we haven't begun work, but I'll mention that one of the things this plan will help us do is create a high injury network, which is getting at exactly what you mentioned. So most other Vision Zero cities find that a majority of their crashes are happening on a very small percentage of their streets, and we know what they look like in Jersey City. It's things like Kennedy Boulevard, Summit Avenue, MLK, Communipaw. So we anecdotally and through our analysis of crashes know that there are some that are really high injury streets, and that's one of them. We have projects on Summit Avenue. We'll send you updates on where they're at. Yeah. And we have funding secured for Central Avenue as well, and Central Avenue was one of the focus streets through the pedestrian study, so we have a lot of projects coming on in the Heights.
No. Go at large, Councilperson Waterman. Councilman Solomon.
What's the current timeline on, I guess, Montgomery Street? Are you guys having a meeting soon? And then, can you also explain why it didn't, I guess it starts at Baldwin and doesn't go all the way to the west side?
Sure. So The Montgomery Street project was determined by a study that was done years ago through Together North Jersey, which was just like a planning and visioning study, and that advanced into this design and construction grant. I think the public meeting is coming on July 30th.
Last day of July.
31st.
Here's not where it is. Here, in City Hall?
Yes, in the chambers. In the chambers. And I think that study set the scope of where they were studying Montgomery in terms of the limits, and the grant that followed adhered to that. Although we can, we will use the grant to implement as much of the design as set forward, but we can always continue the template of what we're imagining Montgomery as past the limit through city funding. It will be at Arlington Park, what was the other? Pershing Field and the, oh sorry, not Arlington, Audubon Park, Pershing Field, and somewhere around Journal Square. It was at a school. I'll get back to you on the locations. I'll confirm.
I want to thank you, Andrew, for presenting the West Side Avenue Community Corridor Plan at the last meeting back in May. It was very well received. And I know that you mentioned, what again is the timeline for that?
So they are actually starting, they're going to start their paving program in that entire area. I think people said maybe in like 4 or 5 weeks or so. The actual date of the... Yes.
Yes, yeah.
They're starting Wednesday.
Well, no,
But it's going to take several weeks.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, they're doing 2 phases, so, okay.
Right, so Camille Wiring is probably built and resurfaced in the coming month or two. And at that time, we'll implement the striping improvements that we presented.
Okay, great, because I'd like to bring you guys back one more time, because we had about 40 people there, but we had that big thunderstorm that night, so I just want to get it to a broader audience, but I like everybody thought that it was great.
Sure.
And then my other question is the county.
One at a time.
I'm almost done. The county is rolling out their, let me know how close I am on my timeline. The county is rolling out their traffic improvements for the boulevard. So when it comes to connecting, for example, the community park with West Side Avenue project, how are you guys working with the county on that?
So the county's project is also funded by TPA, and it's all of Kennedy Boulevard through all the municipalities. We'll do everything we can to make sure they're going to pick nodes along the boulevard for their focus areas. We'll do everything we can to make sure one of the nodes is in Jersey City. They have invited us to be on the technical committee, so we'll have representation. And for the most part, we have a good working relationship with the county, so whenever we do projects, we try to make sure they're integrated with their projects. We'll continue doing that for that study.
Francesca's going to be at my meeting in August.
Okay,
You guys
sure.
together before then, we can get done.
Sure.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
To that end, I think it's important to note that Communipaw also has a scheduled federally funded project in place. We just don't know exactly when it'll be out to bid, but it's pretty soon. We hope by the end of this year, but more likely at the beginning of next year.
Right.
When you say Communipaw, what? The 440 Communipaw project, or?
Yes, that one, the one that starts at 440.
No,
The NJGA local safety program.
The intersection.
From Marcy all the way to, I think, Park.
Right.
Marcy Park, okay, great.
Councilman Bojano?
You know my answer, to tell people to stop jaywalking, bring back traffic enforcement. All this to me is just a waste of time.
Well, actually, to that end, New York City announced 2 weeks ago officially that since they started the implementation and it was formally approved, their Vision Zero plan, they're now trending at a significantly lower fatality rate in the first 6 months. Now, granted, it's very early, but
Specifically, New York City just had their safest 6-month period in recorded history in terms of traffic safety.
Jerry McCann, statistics. You can make them look good, you can make them look bad. Cut it out.
I think this one's pretty real.
Yeah, you believe the Blasey.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
We get my other question. I'll get my question/suggestion, and I'll do it with Councilman Robinson. So we're doing all about downtown think Jackson Hill SID will have a big festival in September, right? That's, they're gonna have like, I'll make an announcement here, I guess. They're gonna have the longest, a competition for the longest Soul Train line. September 9th, is it? Is that the date? I forget the exact date, but that's gonna be huge. You might wanna use that as an outreach opportunity to get, particularly on the south side, some stuff over there. It's a plug for the Soul Train line. I'm a big fan. Looking forward to that.
And so this was dated May 2018. We've made progress on a lot of the things that are listed here, so we'll follow up with the most recent updates on a lot of the projects, but just so you know, most of it is on the traffic safety page of our website. So city website / traffic safety. And we update regularly.
I believe the same day as the African Cultural Festival, so you kind of got your pick over there on that day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank
Anything
you.
else, anyone? Thank you. All right. What are you doing now? Route 440?
Yeah, I could go right to Route 440, or I could just very quickly go over Pulaski.
Okay, quick one on Pulaski.
Very quick Pulaski Skyway update. Last week we received some documentation which I forwarded. It's not on the agenda.
These are just
It's one of the requested updates.
Those are the hardest things for me to find.
Okay.
Those things that aren't on the agenda. Go ahead.
So basically, I circulated to the council persons and Mr. BA this Phase 3 detour, which is basically going to be coming up starting Friday. Councilman Boggiano, very important, for 2 weeks, approximately 2 weeks, they say. July 20th through August 10th, a detour, as we have experienced in the past, due to the reconstruction of the block south of Route 139 eastbound to Washburn, I believe. Yes, Washburn Avenue. Complete reconstruction. They have to change the elevation of the road to meet the new bridge. They're saying it's going to be... No, I'm not. That's on the front colored page.
Tell them to open up 130.
This is part of it. So I didn't want anybody... Washburn. I didn't want anybody to get too excited of the fact that they'd announced that the Pulaski Skyway is traveling in both directions, which it is, which is great. But there's a significant amount of work ending, as of right now, tentatively in 2024 as part of the entire projects. 11 more contracts that will not affect the mainline Pulaski Skyway, but it involves heavily Route 139 and all of the substructure that is the most rotted beneath the Skyway from one end to the other. So I'll be coming forth with agreements for them to access via PJP landfill to get under there. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Hey.
When are they going to open up Summit Avenue? I mean, it's unbelievable.
I could get a specific update on Summit Avenue, and I'll get back to you on that.
The state, I went to the mayor's office and told them they should tell the state to get the heck out of Jersey City. You got them sitting in trucks up there, nobody working, they're all sitting in trucks. That's why this project's taking months and months. I complain to the state, they do nothing.
So for this particular shutdown here from the 20th through August 10th, looks like they're going to need a southbound detour, Baldwin Avenue, down to Palisade, cross over 139, come down to Newark Avenue, and seek from there. They've done it before. Summit Avenue, I believe the original extent was, or duration was supposed to be 6 months, so they may be coming to the end of that. I mean, look, I can ask to delay this, but it's only going to delay the project overall until they open Summit Avenue, but they really don't, they're kind of far from each other. They don't really, coincide too much, so I just wanted to make sure I hammered home that they say that there's still a lot of work to do, so.
Yeah, well, they got to get out of the truck and do some work. They sit in the trucks there.
So that's the one update, and I have one other one. So the state is still reviewing our request to renew and basically re-kickstart the Communipaw Circle, Route 440, Route 1 and 9 corridor conceptual design. As you may or may not recall, this has been going on for quite some years. The original concept design was requested to go to value engineering. It was value engineered. They came up with a significant cost savings and a much improved circulation element / plan for Communipaw Circle itself.
One other thing they've taken in the last time you've probably heard of this project is that they've they've agreed with us that this project needs to be phased. It's now been phased as close to officially as possible, pending the outcome of this review currently. Communipaw Circle would be Phase 1. The Route 440 Boulevard south of Communipaw Circle would be Phase 2. And the Route 1 and 9 corridor north to Whit Penn Circle would be Phase 3. We think that Phase 1 would significantly help the city and the entire flow in that area, obviously. Communipaw Circle. As of right now, the concept includes continuous flow, north and south, 1 and 9 to 440, and vice versa, as well as continuous flow east to west, from Jersey City into Newark and back, 24/7, continuous, no lights at all. Local access would be offered via a small rotunda design, a roundabout, if you will. In Europe, they call it a rotunda, but here we call it a roundabout. That's going to require some significant infrastructure, the biggest part being some flyover bridges, especially the northwest-bound movement into Newark, which we all know backs up well beyond Clendenny and various other streets in the PM peak and AM peak. So we look forward to this progressing. Again, right now it's with the DOT. They've had it for 2 months now. I anticipate 1 other month before they approve the concept design to continue to completion, and then we could start moving towards planning an actual hard design and implementation, shovel to the ground. Shovel to the ground, I don't anticipate happening before 5 years. So, and we're talking well over $100 million just for Phase 1 alone.
Councilperson Panzeri and Ridley, this is your wards. Want to chime in on some questions?
Yeah, so you had mentioned something about an extension for Phase 1. Where were we at right now? My understanding is it was maybe like 18 months before this was going to, the funding was going to go away again. So are you planning to have the concept design approved so we can be ready to move now, or are you looking for another extension?
So just to be clear, the concept design has progressed to a certain point.
Okay.
The funding is going to come short in the earmark that was set in place, I want to say 2007-ish. So to that end, we've requested, and this is what started the whole ball rolling, a year and a half ago, we requested that the DOT find us additional money and approve us to continue with the concept design, take it further to its completion, so that we can move into preliminary design and the various phases that occur after that. That's where they sit right now. We are anticipating that they will put forth not only the funding to finish the conceptual design, but probably the funding to get us through to preliminary design and possibly even the hard design, final design to bid and construct. So right now I could say, since I've been here, which is approaching 3 years now, in September it'll be 3, this is the most progress we've made with the DOT to that end. We had a very, very productive meeting back in February, which started this, basically kick-started it again. It's with a new division, local aid, and between the state and federal vast funding sources that they have available to them, we're confident that by the latest early September, we'll have a plan and approval that I could come forth to you, which you'll have to basically countersign their approval of the same agreement for McCormick Taylor, our consultant, to continue this conceptual design till its end.
What can we do about some of the issues with the light sequencing and the blocking the box along 440, getting into the mall? Because that's some, I know, I can't speak for Councilwoman Ridley, but it's a huge pain point. And I know that you guys also wrote the letter to the state asking to have those cement ballers put on Denny, which I think would be a great first start. So can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to drill down with the new staff down at the DOT, the head staff, the top brass, if you will, to go forward with that. But first, we're going to meet with Urban Edge, who's the developer that owns the Hudson Mall, get all of their concerns to that end, tabulate them, and go back to the DOT one time with at least 2 problem statements that we have. The other one being Manhattan Avenue left turn onto Tunnelly, which they eliminated some time ago. I do have a very slight shining point here. Due to the fact that they opened the Skyway in both directions, they said they're now going to turn their attention. I wasn't even aware of this. They favored signal timing towards Whit Penn Circle to alleviate congestion while the Skyway was closed. They stole that time from Communipaw 440.
Yeah.
So apparently, within the next 2 weeks, that's going to be dialed back and reset. However, I wasn't really going to state that because I don't want anybody to get overly excited. I'm extremely skeptical that that'll make any difference. So hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm
It's not
wrong.
going to be the lollipop solution that we're all looking for, but at least it will alleviate a little bit of that pain point that we've all been living with at the expense of that other end.
DOT, it's all DOT, yeah.
What can we do to help make sure that happens?
I mean, we're happy to hold some community meetings, get some people together to start lobbying. I think
I think we have a.
I could, like that.
I think we should have a higher level meeting once we've gathered the concerns down there. Yeah, and have something here. May have to sunshine it, but whatever, so be it. Get the,
Whatever we have to do.
the top DOT, yeah, absolutely.
Priority.
And that would probably only help to solidify the conceptual design approval
Okay.
as well.
And also, and also after the meeting with Urban Edge, just again, to the number of residents and businesses along that other end of the strip, it impacts everybody all the way down to Bayonne, basically. So.
Absolutely. So, yeah, maybe sunshining. Let's work on structuring that. Let me have that first meeting in the next couple weeks. We'll circle back maybe for the August meeting, and we'll talk about pooling our resources for getting the attention on 440 that it deserves, 440, 109.
Thank you.
I do have.
Do you have any other questions?
Well,
Well, what about Councilwoman Ridley?
we're good. Okay, Council President?
Joe 440.
Yes, it's nothing to do for 40, but I can say that for the record, Council President, we have to recognize him, that him and Paul's engineer, assistant engineer.
Supervisor,
and the
yes.
DPW, they work together.
How about
as
Andrew too.
Yeah, Andrew. No. It's Andrew.
We'll name them all.
No. So Reservoir 3, they're able to do that, some kind of stabilizer work, able to conduct it with your leadership. Appreciate it.
Oh, Reservoir 3.
Reservoir 3, yeah.
I was just about to report on that. I have one item, legislative item.
Yes.
It's a resolution authorizing the award of Mr. Robert Byrne. This is Z34 that I'm speaking on now.
Z34, right?
Yes. Resolution authorizing the award of a professional engineering services contract to Mazer Consulting. You met the folks that will be working on that directly when we had our first kickoff, if you will, for Reservoir 3.
Yeah.
This will get us significantly towards the end of, first of all, bringing on a licensed LSRP that will actually pay attention to the project. We've had a consultant, which I will not name at this time, that for probably almost 3 years has done nothing to progress this to completion as far as remediation and meeting the standards of the DEP. This will largely get us there in a much quicker time frame. I have full confidence that these people are the right people. And also there's some additional room in there to progress further with recommendations on improvements to get this to become ultimately what I see and I think the city sees as a viable recreation area.
So this is company going to conduct the engineering study. Great. I really appreciate it. So people are already excited. And stabilize it like a 3 different places and remove the trees also.
And by the end of this year, you will definitely see movement from the DPW in-house in conjunction with ourselves and Architecture Division to work on repairing the 48 locations of failed wall and the two pump houses, restoration of the roof, and then we'll move on from there. To a significant, the fencing as well. There's a contract with DPW, we're working with them.
Getting in there.
That's very dangerous. We had one fall, multiple stories inside of the one gatehouse some years ago, and on any given day, you can see kids playing there at the end of school.
And also, Council President, the engineering department finished that racetrack, the Pershing Field, and we went for the next phase for the future rubberized in that area.
Yeah, we found a cost-effective solution that we think DPW could help us install at a significant cost savings.
Yeah, and also
it's beyond. Right now you have asphalt, but we always said that once the asphalt's in, we could always rubberize at any time. To do rubberizing to meet the level of high school or even NCAA standards, you're looking at $500,000 just for the rubber. But we're looking at a very significant savings in what we're looking at right now,
added to
product-wise.
that, the middle of the gate, they should be open, so people use the swimming pool able to park the car. But we have to replace the sign So no vehicle other than like authorized vehicle only, so-and-so sign, so nobody can go to the
Where
truck.
we added the new fence, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a lined up so people can park the car. So they increase the parking space for the people who use the park, that's a great job. And the second is there must have to be, put some sign, only authorized vehicle only, because the people who come in damaging the racetrack, we have the car inside of the racetrack, you know what I'm saying? So we gotta make sure that things work, you know? All right?
No, we'll work with DPW.
Yes,
I'll let
please,
Paul know. He'll give you a call just to get the exact placement and whatnot, and then we'll work with DPW sign shop. to
Great
get that
job,
done.
okay? Appreciate it.
Thank you all. Andrew still has some legislation.
Yes, Andrew's got a couple items here.
Andrew, still got items to discuss?
Start with the ordinances. Starting from 3C, 3D, 3F, 3G. Okay?
3C is an ordinance converting Phillip Street and Audrey Zapp Drive, Johnson Avenue as an all-way stop intersection. This intersection makes sense for an all-way stop considering the volumes approaching on both roads are essentially equal. 3D designates Sackett Street at its approach, Oxford Avenue at its approach to Sackett Street, which is a T intersection as a stop intersection. That's basically just formalizing what exists today or what happens today at the intersection. At the approach to the T intersection, there actually isn't a stop sign. Yeah. If there are no further questions, I'll move on to 3F, which modifies the parking restrictions on Cole Street. Essentially, we received many complaints through C-Click-Fix that people are having a hard time walking on Coles between 16th and 17th near some of those new developments. So, and there's no sidewalk there, so there's no place for people to walk. They're kind of just in between traffic and the parked cars. So we're going to eliminate parking for just that small segment of Coles so that people have a place to walk. And we're going to offset that parking loss by allowing parking on Coles at certain sections between 10th and 16th.
You'll have cars, where you go all the way up Hoboken Avenue, you can't find a space down 17th Street, 18th Street, all the way up Hoboken, but nobody has any cars.
We have a whole parking enforcement plan scheduled to go in with metering on that whole stretch.
Yeah, but it's wrong, because people have cars, you're gonna bring in the parking enforcement, and where the heck are they gonna park? They're gonna get ticketed and towed?
The intent of the parking regulations will be to have those people who are parking for free on city streets to park in the buildings where they live.
And pay $200 to $300 a month in rent.
Well, we got to get in on the action too.
Yes, that's the cost of parking. Parking shouldn't be free.
We can't have competing, parking needs to be level. You can't have competing interests. So the city needs to...
Did you receive the email from the private? We got the John 16 Heights, they're one of the...
Yes, I saw that. We need to make that modification to add that little section of options,
Okay,
right?
thank you, yeah.
Yeah, I received that.
Okay, next item.
3G makes 15th Street, it's currently a one-way street. Well, it's been closed for a while for construction, but before construction it was a one-way westbound street. We're converting that to a two-way street to assist with the circulation around all of these redeveloped parcels. This ordinance also restricts the left turn. So if you're traveling on 15th Street eastbound, approaching Jersey Avenue, that's extremely close to 14th Street when you're exiting the Holland Tunnel. So that left turn is just not safe. We're restricting that at all times. The intent is that people would make that left turn at 16th Street, which is a signalized intersection.
Okay, no questions. We'll go to the resolutions, starting at 10Z4 and going all the way to 10Z11.
10Z4 is for the Caribbean Carnival Parade and Festival. It's a repeat event, but it's at a new location. The new location is the same location that the Puerto Rican Festival was held in 2017, and there's been extensive public safety discussions and meetings held earlier this month, and there's a very detailed traffic control plan associated with the event.
Okay, question on that? Hearing none. 10Z5?
10Z5 is a repeat event.
Sizzling Salsa?
Sizzling Salsa on Grove Street.
Any questions? No. Hearing none.
Z6 is a new event on Virginia Avenue on a weekend for the New Redeemer Church Community Health Fair.
Councilor Robinson, all good. Next item?
Z7 is the annual Jersey City Puerto Rican Heritage Arts and Culture Parade. It's a repeat event.
Okay. Any questions on that? No.
Z8 is a new event, but it will have the same logistics as the Caribbean and Puerto Rican festivals that I identified before.
It's the House Music Explosion.
The House Music Explosion.
Okay.
Yes. Z9, Z10, and Z11 are all repeat events.
Any questions about those? No. It's all Ward C and D. All right, gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you, Council. One last thing. Heights parking starts, the signage starts Wednesday. The Heights parking, zone parking? Starting Wednesday, installation. It's going to go on for about 2 months. We're looking at mid-September to finish everything.
So probably starting enforcement September, right?
Yeah, we're looking at probably, what, 1st of October? Yeah. But it took a while, but we're on our way there. And we do have a tentative meeting with Assemblyman Shiro Velati regarding 440, and I forgot. Parker reminded me. It's still pending. But that's step one.
Working out dates that don't, the other date was Wednesday, which will be the council meeting, so we'll look at next week.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Okay, council from the top.
Let's cover what we didn't. An ordinance renaming the Greenville branch of the Jersey City Free Public Library to the Earl Morgan Branch Library.
Council members, any questions on this?
No question.
Okay.
3B we covered with Mr. Stamato and Miller. 3C.
It's covered.
D.
3E is being withdrawn by the administration.
We have 3E being withdrawn.
3D, you said?
E as in Edward.
What's that?
No, tax abatement, you kidding me?
This is the veterans housing. I'll be frank with you, I requested to have it added to the agenda, and the administration has asked to have it withdrawn, so.
Okay, we did 3F with Andrew.
Actually, they are withdrawing it.
Yes,
They haven't requested, they're withdrawing it. Yes. 3E, they withdrew 3E. Yeah, that's it. I'm sorry, Robert, go ahead.
It's okay, sir. We did G with Andrew as well. So the first,
We've got a late item, 3L.
well, H did we do already?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
All the way to L.
We go all the way to L, and that's to name Wilkinson, not Wilkerson Avenue, or the intersection after Elnora. And a lot of people call her Eleanor, but Elnora Watson.
So that's actually
That's going to be...
naming MLK, not Wilson, right? Just between Wilson.
We don't touch the main drags. It's the...
This is renaming, this is dedicating that portion of MLK Drive. I mean, MLK will still retain its address and folks, but this is where Urban League is, right?
Oh, yeah, I thought they were doing Wilson.
We're doing it in okay.
Okay. So I'll get a new ordinance from the traffic engineer who just left. Any questions on second reading ordinances?
No.
Going to resolutions, council members, we're finally to the point where we're adopting our budget. There'll be a public hearing before the budget, right after first reading ordinances. There'll be a public hearing on the budget. 10A is a resolution to adopt the calendar year municipal budget. Introduced at the special meeting held last Tuesday.
Will the actual budget be attached?
See, that's what I'm saying, because we're not going to provide this one paper. They have to provide the actual
Well, I'm
amendment.
going to have before you, and I numbered the pages, you're going to be acting on the resolution to adopt, and I will have, for everyone who complained that there aren't numbered pages, the pages will be numbered.
And also, Greg, they're supposed to provide, the John Metro's supposed to provide friendly budget for coming Wednesday, and friendly budget.
Use a friendly budget. There was some reason this year why that couldn't occur. I don't know exactly the reason.
Yes, please, okay?
That wasn't feasible this year, and because of the way the state of New Jersey was redoing it.
Okay, I'll check, because that is the state of New Jersey requirement. So,
And if they can't...
so let me go see what it is.
So you're amending, you're going to include the amended budget, provide that to the public, or?
Well, I'm going to give the budget amendment I'm going to have enough copies for anyone who wants to comment on the budget amendment. After we close the public hearing on the budget amendment, you're free to adopt the budget.
I understand, are we going to have a copy of it's the same budget that was given to us at the prior, most recent meeting, correct?
It's going to actually reflect the amendments.
It just won't be highlighted. It'll be the...
It's going to actually, John is actually putting the budget together. It's this thick. He's integrating.
So it's all the items?
It's everything.
It's going to be everything. You're voting on it in total.
So you're reading the whole thing into the record, just so...
I'm just reading the budget amendment into the
Amendments.
record. That's bad enough, guys.
No, I get it, I'm just trying to clarify for everyone here as well. So for the members of the council, we'll get the entire budget will be made available to yourselves as well as members of the public, which will include the amendments that were discussed and proposed at the prior meeting. And then the city clerk will read into the record the amendments, but only the amendments, not the entire budget, as he had read the entire budget previously when it was first introduced, correct? No?
That's not a requirement. Only reading the budget amendments. And they were properly advertised in the Saturday Jersey Journal. So if anyone is at home and they have it, don't recycle it. Take a look at the budget so you can come in and make cogent remarks about the budget.
And let me just get one clarification from the DA. Has the state local government services authorized our...
I assume that John was working side by side with them in order to offer you the amendment, but I will ask him.
Okay. I mean, I know we submitted it, but I just want to make sure.
I don't think he would submit the amendment without getting there.
Let's just further that.
But I will, absolutely.
We can't approve unless it's approved of the state.
Right.
Yeah, gives us the...
Yeah, that's why I think it's already approved.
We need a green light. Actually, the communication is supposed to come to the clerk to, you're all set, but if it comes to the CFO or to the budget officer, I take it as...
I can walk down there and get it.
As biblical.
Talk to him right now.
Did you get confirmation from the states?
Not yet, but John is the one that's been interacting with Zena, with Tina Zatici.
We'll keep moving along.
Okay.
10B.
We're honoring the St. Peter's University chapter of the Pi Lambda Tau fraternity on the occasion of their 50th anniversary. We nearly put it out as 500th anniversary, but you know that wasn't correct. C, a resolution commemorating the life of John Joseph Allen Sr. D is a resolution authorizing the establishment of a sister city relationship between the city of General Santos in the Republic of the Philippines and the city of Jersey City in the United States of America, and execution of a memorandum of agreement.
Can I just speak to that a little bit? So the administration and myself have met with representatives from General Santos City. It is the tuna fish capital of the Philippines. It is in the southern portion of the Philippines, and so they will be here in mid-August. The exact dates I don't recall off the top of my head, but it's like around August 13th or so. And what's that? August 14th will be the actual signing ceremony, and the representatives of General Santos City are expected to be here. This will be the first sister city agreement done under this administration, and others are being contemplated as well. And for those who didn't know, because I didn't know going into this whole process, that apparently that street on Montgomery Street, the stretch going towards Exchange Place where all the flags are, apparently they all represent a sister city that the city of Jersey City has a formal agreement with. And it's called Sister City Lane or something like that as well. So, the actual, where's the agreement? Wait, I'm sorry, where's the agreement itself?
Council President,
I never saw an MOU.
Oh.
We're talking about D. Oh, is it attached?
Oh, it's in the back, I'm sorry.
I apologize.
It's the very last page, back page of it.
Council President, let me just...
It's very broad, it's not a...
One of the city in Korea interested to have a sister city relationship with Jersey City. What we have to do, first step, we have to speak for administration mayor's office first? Or does the city council pass a resolution?
We can, we should meet with...
Mayor?
We should let the mayor know, definitely, but we should meet with, what's his name?
Chip Homestead?
It's on the tip of my tongue. Economic Development Director.
Economic Development? Marcos.
No. Well, Marco should know as well because he's his boss. Jose Arango.
Jose Arango.
My apologies, Mr. Arango. Jose Arango apparently heads up and has been coordinating sister cities for the duration of his career here in Jersey City. So I learned that all through this process. And
There was another one for Ghana.
there's one working on Ghana, and
So we have to start with Jose.
yes, we should set up a meeting with Jose and make that happen. Okay? Great. We have John Metro here.
John Mighty Metro.
So a couple of questions we ask. Number one, let's see that your friendly budget this Wednesday. Friendly budget this Wednesday. Wednesday or tomorrow?
I can have it done tomorrow, but I want the state to review it before it's broadcasted publicly. It'll be submitted to the state today, and then possible feedback, if not, released tomorrow.
Can you also get this all posted online?
Yeah. It'll be under financial documents on the city website.
And then the other question is state approval itself.
As of today, we're still going back and forth, more about document backup, nothing structural at the moment, but a final approval has not been done yet. It should come tonight or tomorrow, hopefully.
So if it's a state, not state, do you guys agree like that?
Well, the state doesn't have any structural issues with the budget. It's more about reviewing documentation to make sure everything's accurate. So we don't foresee any issues with the state.
So we got no problem to approve that this Wednesday?
As long as they give us the final okay, but there's been no correspondence that tells me otherwise.
So the amendments are up on the city website now, or they're going to be posted?
So on the city website, we'll have the official budget document and the user-friendly budget as well.
Okay, so I can correct it.
Final adoption.
The final adoption, yeah.
It's not up there yet.
It's not up there yet because in case we had to change something today or tomorrow with the state, we didn't want to have multiple versions floating.
If we have to change it because of the state, then... Are we back at first reading?
As long as it's not 10%.
As long as it's not 10%.
But we don't, as long as it's not more or less than 10% of the item. But we don't foresee that.
10% change in the overall.
Yeah.
So my request would be, could we get it up with a caveat on there that says, pending approval from State Division of Local Government Services? Just be good to have people have an opportunity to download it before the final adoption.
Yeah, I'll work on that tomorrow morning, just to make sure.
Thank you.
John, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you Monday.
Okay, the rest of the way.
All right, I opened my mouth a few times about that earlier this morning. F is authorizing the BA to execute a discharge of mortgage.
I'm sorry, Robert, let's just go back to E for a second. Is E going to pass? This is the allowing the open space state
Oh, I'm sorry. I was in communication with the administration.
to go into the reservoir. Now,
I was in communication with the administration. They want to withdraw this.
okay.
Okay, but we draw, right?
I think it was a great idea to add the local reservoir.
Yes,
our
we do.
reservoir.
Yeah, I think, but we'd have to add numbers.
Yeah, okay. Well, yes, of course. So we'll go and
We
withdraw
should
that.
apply the same standards New York does to its reservoirs. F authorizes the BA to execute a discharge of mortgages at 1209 Summit Avenue. G removes a deed restriction at 325 Palisade Avenue, the former City Hall Annex. 3H is authorizing refunds due to overpayment of property tax accounts. I is a resolution authorizing the city tax collector to transfer 2012 and prior year premiums paid on tax liens purchased at tax sale, not from the tax collector, to city's miscellaneous revenue not anticipated account. When you hear MRNA, that means found money. Okay, J. All the way through W.
Okay.
J to M, cancel and refund tax sale certificate sold in error. N through W, authorize the replacement of lost third-party tax sale certificates to a company called J&H Funding. So don't give them anything to hold for you because they lose it. X is a resolution authorizing a mortgage subordination agreement for 358, 360 Halliday Street. The rest of the page has been done. Z4 through Z8 have been done. Z9, we talked about that with Mr. Vishio.
Yeah, we're all the way to Z12.
Right. Yeah, just to put a little dot next to it. That whole page is distinguished. We've done all of them. 12 through 19. 20 is a resolution awarding a contract to Municipal Code Corporation, to provide codification services for the Jersey City Municipal Code. It's a contract that comes out of our office. We're very satisfied with their work. They help us keep the city code on the web. They're good. And they help the law department in the drafting of legislation because they just pull up the existing code and make changes. Z29 we did. Z30 is a renewal of a contract with Paraplus Translations for providing interpreters for the municipal court. I have to thank Wendy for providing a sign language interpreter. A deaf couple got married a couple of weeks ago. We were able to get them in our office up to a judge where they got a judicial time waiver, and the interpreter acted as the interpreter for the entire event. Newark failed to do this under the American with Disabilities Act and was sued for $60,000. So we paid $600 for that event, 1% of what it cost Newark when they failed to provide that service for someone with a disability.
And it's the right thing to do.
Well, that's why I did it. It's the right thing to do, but if we had done the wrong thing, we would have been paying a down payment on their house. Z31, pardon me, amending the contract with Brack Eichler to represent the mayor, former business administrator Robert Kakoleski, Philip Zaki, Joseph Connor, former deputy chief of police, in the matter of David Goldrich versus the city of Jersey City et al. Z32 is ratifying and renewing a professional services agreement with the law firm of Appruzes, McDermott, Mastro, and Murphy, PC, to represent the city in various union negotiations.
Hold up, Corporation Councilman.
I mean, we have great lawyers, especially union negotiation in the city hall. Why we have to go outsourcing?
I'm sorry, continue.
That we have this law firm to Bryce union negotiation. Why we not use our own lawyer?
The scope and the depth of these union negotiations and the specialized nature of it, we'd be taking multiple attorneys out of commission essentially, not permanently, but for months at a time, if they were to be assigned full-time to the negotiation process.
This was one of the things that Bob Packo was heavily involved in. We cut down severely during his tenure on outside counsel for these kinds of things, so.
And the Appruzzi firm, the attorney from that firm who has represented us, has gotten fantastic results for the city.
I mean, my question is very simple. Why we cannot, our law department lawyer cannot handle that?
I would say it's a manpower issue. It's a specialization issue as well.
They're going to squeeze the blood out of the nickels.
They are?
Yes. Z33 is awarding a professional services contract with Colombo, Renaud, and D. Apollonio, LLC, to represent police officer Samuel Torres in the matter of Adnan Eider via the city of Jersey City.
Any questions?
We've done everything, including Z38, the late resolution that authorized the city of Jersey City to accept, or did we? To accept a donation of LED light bulbs from Philips Lighting of North America. I thought the young ladies were staying when I had to step out.
Which one is it?
It's the late item, Z38. We're getting a gift of LED light bulbs.
Great.
Okay, the time is currently 3:38. Anything before we adjourn?
Take a motion.
Motion, second.
The ladies have it. Prinzeri. Let me just take a final roll call. Councilperson Ridley?
Yep.
Prinzeri?
Yes.
Bajano? Yun?
Yes.
Mr. Solomon has left us. Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera has left us.
Yes.
Council Waterman has left us. The president is still here, and he has just a little bit more to go on that gallon of water.
Gosh.
There you go.